Hello and welcome to Sports Fan Entertainment, and I am gladly here to be joined with by Titans Rossi of the Titan Upload Network. We want to do a little bit more of these live streams coming on here and being able to really communicate with you guys and be able to have more of discussions between me and him. So I'm happy to have him here. What is going on, Titans Rossi?
Yeah, man, I'm glad to be here. I just got off work like 30 minutes ago, and yeah, man, I'm glad to be here tonight. It has been a tough season. It's been a tough past few seasons for Titans fans. I'm sure we're going to get into this tonight, MJ, at some point, but the future is looking bleak at the moment, in my opinion. But I'm anxious to hear, your thoughts on it as well. I know we're going to get into it, but happy to be here, man.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And first thing I want to talk about because I was not able to make my Jaguars recap. Actually, what ended up happening was I actually ended up falling asleep for an hour during it, and then I had to make up time to to watch it afterwards. That's how boring it was. It was so boring. It was absolutely so boring. I couldn't do it. I just absolutely couldn't do it. And I was just tired from the night before. So I ended up rewatching it entirely. And overall, it's actually kind of frustrating because it really wasn't even that bad. And I want to have a larger discussion on this when it comes to Brian Callahan. I think he was really probably at fault for a lot that happened there. I still don't like the decision to go for it on the fourth and goal. If you kick a field goal there, you're kicking a field goal to win the game at the end of the game. And I think that was a critical error right there. And then just overall, this coaching staff right now is not something that I'm having confidence in. The defense was fine. I mean, they let up the late drive to Mac Jones. It happens. I mean, it's unfortunate, but they lit up 10 points and not many yards. It had two interceptions, so I was fine with that. In terms of Will Levis and how he played, I actually thought he was pretty good in the first half, and then I think when he re-aggravated his shoulder, I think that he missed some throws. I think also, but the run game was working, so I understood why they stuck with the run game as well. So I had no problem with that. But overall, just disappointing, and again, like I said, very boring. I mean, it just incredibly boring. One of the most boring times. I mean, at least whenever we got blasted by the Washington Commanders, at least a lot of points were being scored. But now it was just dreadful. What were your thoughts on from Sunday?
Dude, I almost lost it when you said that because, like, if you look at there's a lot of pictures that have come out, like on X, of people at the game. I don't know if you've seen some of those. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
they said that it was 65% full. It looked like it was like 40%, you know. And I don't know. In the beginning, I'm sure it was more. And then, I mean, it was a pretty close game. So if you were there, I mean, I'd say you would stay just because it was close. But dude, it was an absolute snooze fest. Like, um, there were some good defensive plays on our part. It was good seeing Awuzie like get himself a pick after being out that long because there's a lot of people who've talked about how they're just kind of not really happy with the Snead Awuzie them being injured. For him to come back in, get a pick like that, it was really encouraging to see. Otis Reese with the pick, that was crazy. And he's a guy that, like, he was one of those preseason guys where everybody's been like, Otis Reese could be the man, for the last like two seasons. I feel like it's been like that with Otis Reese. So to see him get in there, play well, get the pick was nice. But yeah, man, I mean, it's just at this point, I've told my girlfriend multiple times this season, and she'll sit there and suffer with me through these games. I mean, she's been to some of the games with me. She's not even a big football fan, you know what I mean? And God bless her, she will suffer through some of these games with me. And it's like watching paint dry, dude. Like, it's getting to the point in the season where there's not really much else to play for. Jeffrey Simmons, he was interviewed what the other day, and he's like, guys are playing for contracts. At least he's honest. Like at least Big Jeff is like the one dude on the team that like comes out and says these type of things.
Yeah, and like ultimately, they're still professionals, so I still expect them to come out and be professionals, and they have a job to do. And even if they're playing for their contracts now or future contracts, like that's absolutely something that you're going to do.
Right.
So I expected at least that, and I still think they're playing hard. I just don't think they're very good.
Right.
I mean, particularly offensively. I mean, the defense did kind of seem like it gave up against the Commanders, I will say. But I thought they played fine for sure against the Jaguars. I mean, at least defensively, and then offensively, there was just nothing. And they just couldn't score points. Really, they couldn't convert in the red zone, and they missed, the opportunity, like I said, at the fourth and goal. And if they get, I think, a field goal there, I think maybe they end up winning this game 12-10. We're having a slightly different discussion, but here we are now, 3-10, and I wanted to also get your overall view. So, where are you at right now on Brian Callahan, on Will Levis? Let's start with Brian Callahan.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not out on Brian Callahan. Like, I think a lot of people, there are people out there who are, and they're like, one and done, let them go. Like, for a coach to be one and done like this, you got to look at it in a multitude of facets. Like Brian Callahan, he's a first time head coach in the NFL. He's been in the NFL for a long time now, but he's not been a head coach. He's a first time head coach. You could see he's still kind of building through a lot of these processes, learning how to be a head coach. I personally don't want to give up on the guy after a year because it's not only a matter of like it's just a problem, right? If you do, because you're still paying Mike Vrabel, I believe they're still paying Mike Vrabel. Um, then you'd have to. I'm sure Callahan is under contract for so many years. So it's just to me, if you fire him this year, like you're just going even further backwards unless there's just like some coach out there that's just like a generational type of coach, like somebody that pops up like, you know I don't know, Bill Cower or somebody comes back and like, something like that. But I'm not out on Callahan. Like I haven't there's decisions that he makes, MJ, you talked about it before, that you're like, what are you doing, man? But at the same time, I feel like he's trying to do something on offense that a lot of us Titans fans have wanted for a long time. He just doesn't have the right pieces to do it yet.
Yeah, I would mostly agree with that. I don't love the fact that this is now like our third, most likely our third like worst consecutive season, going from seven and
Hmm.
ten to 6-11, and then we're hiring him under the assumption that he's going to come in here and fix things. Don't love that. And then from an offensive perspective, I mean, I see some of the passing concepts, and they're pretty good. And I mean, Tony Pollard this year, he's going to crack probably 1,100 yards. He's been running well, so that's been good. Calvin really has had his moments where he's been disappointing, but more so on him just dropping the ball. I mean, even
Yeah.
the game that, if his game where he was upset, I think that was just more so because him and Levis weren't on the same page and he was dropping passes, but I don't think the passing concepts were poor. So some of those things I'm concerned about. Maybe in the future they'll look more. Yeah, I don't know if it's a play calling thing for sure, but definitely personnel though. When it comes to, oh my God, if we have to trot out Nicholas Petit Frere out there again, man, whew. Things like that still need to be fixed. And we obviously eventually we traded away DeAndre Hopkins. He was never able to use Derrick Henry because he was gone before the year. So I mean, this is definitely more of a rebuild than we anticipated. So I'll give him a little bit of slack on that. But if we come out next year and it's still not improved, I mean, it's going to be bad. And you might be looking at a Ken Winslow situation easily, I could.
Do you think like if he comes out next year and say, they halfway through the season they go 2-6 or something, or 1-7. Do you think it's a scenario where they would axe him like midway through the season?
Yeah, because I think at that point, and we're going to talk about Levis in a second, I think at that point you're just looking at, okay, this was just like a failed regime. The only thing that he can do, and to potentially save that sort of situation, is if he were able to bring in a veteran who could come in and maybe save the day if Levis is still not playing that well, and then
Right.
the season would be having some hope left. But if it's just Levis really being the main starter and he's struggling and this team is struggling, I could see it. I mean, Amy Adams shrunk up to this point. I mean, she waited till after Vrabel after the season, and then was she? I don't think she was in having ownership whenever it was Ken Wisner. I think that was still Tommy Smith making decisions, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong on that.
Yeah.
It was right around there.
Yeah.
So I think she'd be pretty level-headed, but it would be interesting, and I wouldn't recommend.
Right. And I mean, if you look at, yeah, if they do bring in like a veteran, obviously Mason Rudolph has not worked out. I mean, Levis has been much better than him for the most part. It's over the last 4 games, at least the last 4 or 5 games. I feel like they were kind of even there for a little bit, although Rudolph didn't make quite the mistakes and as Levis was making early on. But I mean, there's not really much in the free agency market as far as quarterbacks out there. Like you're looking at Sam Darnold, and Sam Darnold is going to get a payday somewhere. Like, even though it's like, does Darnold deserve this gigantic, huge payday? Like, I don't think so, but he's gonna get one. Like, that's just the fact. I mean, the guy is gonna throw for 30 plus touchdowns this year in the NFL. So somebody is gonna go out there and give him some type of ridiculous contract, something where they could opt out of like year 3 or something. It's going to be one of those contracts where you look at on the surface, I feel like it's going to be some insane thing, but it's really not as bad as it seems. But at the same time, like, there's not many. I think Justin Fields, Sam Darnold are like the top two. So, and right now, like, I know you're a fan of Shadur Sanders, right? Like, you're a big fan of him. And what stinks right now is the Titans probably aren't in a position draft wise to get him. And like, I wouldn't mind seeing them take him. Like, if they can, if they end up taking him, or if they end up being in a spot high enough to take him. But yeah, man, there's so many unknowns right now. And I don't know, man. I just don't see they could add some people. I just don't know. They got to fix that right side of the offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, I was a big fan of Shador even coming into the season, and for some reason, so frustratingly, all of these 3-win teams keep losing. I mean, eventually, some of them do face each other. Like, eventually, I think the Jets do face the Raiders. I think the Jets face the Jags,
Hmm.
and then okay, someone's gonna have to win, but everyone keeps losing. And I don't think I've ever seen this many 3-10 teams. I don't think I've seen it, and so many teams being in contention for the #1 pick still. Because I think eventually the Raiders will win a game. The Giants, I don't know, but I do think Raiders will have still one more game in them. So I don't anticipate them being in position for him. Ward, I'm okay on Ward. I maybe at that point though you just still roll with Levis next year. And let's get to a Levis now. So
Hmm.
where do you stand on Will Levis? Because I'm known on Twitter as the big Will Levis hater, big skeptic. Apparently, I got yelled at after the Texas game.
I mean, dude, like, I've been ridiculed for it too. Like, I put out a tweet one week, and this was not this week's game, but last game. When a lot of people were like, "Oh my gosh, she looks great," and this and that, and I put out this tweet, and I was like, I just don't see like the future. Like, I just don't see it. Yes, he's played a lot better. I kind of went back the next day and wrote, look, and I think a lot of people took it as as I was just jumping on the Will Levis bandwagon. I was ready to ride or die with him next year. The reason I say that, I mean, that's the thing. Like, there's not going to be anybody out there. If you can't draft Sanders, I'm not sold on Cam Ward, man. Like, he makes a lot of mistakes. I've seen him play. Like, I just I'm just kind of done with like the 2, 3 year project, 4 year project type of players. There's a lot of quarterbacks that are coming out in the last 5, 6 decade where it's not like it was back in the old days for the most part, right? Like, I would say, like, there's not a lot of quarterbacks coming out where you just sit them for 3 or 4 years. Like, now it's like, okay, you got 2 seasons to really show if you got it. This is Levis's second season. Now, he was hurt some last season, but he's played over 16 games too. And I just feel like he's not the future. I feel like, if anything, Will Levis has kind of turned into the bridge now. Like, that's my opinion. Like, there's just plays that I just don't know, man. I just feel like he's gonna kind of be in this situation where it's just hit and miss like all season, you know? And I'm not like sold on him at all, but what else do you got at this point considering all those factors?
Yeah, no, I agree with that for sure as of right now, and like really the thing that when I say like okay he's been playing better just because he's not turning over the football ridiculously
Mhm.
every week, right? He was always making throws. I don't think anyone's ever doubted his arm. I don't think anyone's ever doubted his athleticism. Although I think he should actually use his legs a bit more. I know he has a hurt shoulder right now, but I
Mhm.
actually think he really should. Um, but I haven't seen because we're still talking about on the season he has 12 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Okay, that's not good.
No.
Okay, so and then this is combined with the fact that I saw similar stats and numbers and metrics from him at Kentucky. So I've never seen one good Will Levis season. Maybe his sophomore year, but then he regressed his junior year. His sophomore year was his best one. Even then, he threw double-digit interceptions. So until I see one,
Mhm.
I just need to see one whole season, and then okay, I'll start to buy into it. But ever since high school, I haven't seen him. He's already 25 years old. It's not like he's having the same season, in my opinion, the same, and the stats are very similar as Drake May. But Drake May's 23. So if I'm New England, I'm much more excited
Right.
if I have what I'm seeing in Drake May.
Dude, I don't know. Like, when I look at Will Levis playing quarterback, like, he's so he's freaking, for one thing, he's gigantic. Like, and I'm not saying like it's a bad thing or whatever, but the dude looks like a linebacker out there playing quarterback. Like, he just doesn't look like he fits that NFL quarterback type of mode. And there's a lot of different styles of quarterbacks, right? You got your mobile quarterbacks, you got like your hybrid quarterbacks, you got this and that. But I just like, when I see Levis, I'm like, there's just something off about him. Like, and there's times where I'm like, dude, you're too like amped up. Like, you're too like just raw, like it just drives me nuts sometimes, watching him. He's one of the most frustrating quarterbacks I think I've ever watched, especially for the Titans, because you see this type of ability, and I think it's been like that since he's been at Penn State and Kentucky. I think if you go back and you ask the Penn State fans, if you ask the Kentucky fans, they would probably say the exact same thing, in a sense. Like, a lot of people complain about, okay, at Kentucky, he didn't have the offense. He didn't have a lot of weapons. He didn't have a great offense there. His junior year, he did pretty well. Like, he put up good numbers, but there were still moments where he did the Levis thing and, made these dumb bonehead plays. And it's like, I want him to be good. Like, I want him to go out there and be very good, and him be the quarterback. And I just keep getting stuck in this rotating cycle of like, I just can't buy it yet. I'm just not sold yet. I'm not buying the product yet.
Yeah, and 100%. And then it's funny too because people assume too like, oh, you might be like a Vols fan, and that's why you may not
Right.
like him because he played terribly in that Vols game without a doubt. But I think we're all like, I don't think. First of all, I actually don't think the Vols really care about Kentucky football like that. Maybe some years,
Yeah.
but I don't consider that basketball. Sure, I don't consider that a big deal. And then, I mean, I don't know what moron wouldn't take a great quarterback, even from your rival SEC school. Maybe you hated him in college, but hey, if he's going to come in here and do well, because how many teams are you going to check off if you're living that way? I don't think fans view it that way. Unless if they're crazy. I mean, I wouldn't care. I would absolutely not care if it was a Tennessee quarterback, Alabama,
Hmm.
whatever. As long as you're good, I don't care.
Right.
I absolutely don't care. You know how much I hated Peyton Manning? Oh my god! But if we could have got him, oh, I would have took it.
Yeah. I mean, in hindsight, speaking of Peyton Manning, I know we're getting off here, but you remember, I mean, we threw everything in the kitchen sink at Peyton Manning. Like Bud Adams wanted him so bad. The mayor was going to give the like all these like perks to the city, all this type of stuff. And I don't know, man. I would have took it at the time. Like if Peyton would have came in here and won us a Super Bowl, like yeah, you're gonna suffer for many years after, like the Broncos did, because they gave away everything and they suffered for quite a few years. But hey, they got a Super Bowl out of it, right? Um, but yeah, man, I don't know, dude. Like it, I just for me, if I'm the Titans, like front office ran Carthon and Amy. If I'm sitting there, yeah, and you're right. Like there's a lot of bad teams this year. But if I end up finding myself in like the third through fifth spot, and somehow, some way, Sanders falls in my lap, I just don't see how you could pass up on him unless Will Levis just these last what 4 games we got left or 3 games, 4 games.
It's four games.
So if Will Levis just all of a sudden just starts throwing 4 touchdowns a game and he looks like Superman, uh, I don't know, man. Like, are you kind of on that same wavelength?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would take Sanders. Also, another question on that: would you consider a mid-round prospect, like a second or third rounder, or is it just first rounder bust for you?
As far as like a quarterback?
Yes, as far as
Well, I mean, who do we got? Right? I know you got guys like what Carson Beck. Um, who else do we got out there as far as
so, I think Milrow is going to come out.
Milrow? Okay,
Nussmeier's staying. Ewers is falling. Ewers is going second round now, at
yeah,
least, maybe third. Um, Maybe a guy like Dylan Gabriel if you like him.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, he's someone that people really have questions about how he's going to translate to the next level. Personally, I don't think I would. I still don't even love the fact that we took Will Levis when we did.
right,
Because like this was a year after we took Malik Willis in the third, and then we took Levis in the second, and then because of that, we didn't want to take one in the first the next year. So if it's gonna dissuade us from taking a quarterback on the first round next year, then don't do it. But if there's someone that you really like, sure. I don't know if I've seen that guy yet. I think Milrow still has potential, but outside of that, unless if Beck revives what he was last year, I'm not really interested in him. And Ewers is he's a smart quarterback mostly, but I'm not seeing the arm strength that I really need to see from him. So it's just an interesting question to think about for sure.
Milrow is. I was just looking at PFF now, and they're like quarterback rankings, and it was updated. Let's see, December 2nd. So Milrow's ranked first for them. Um, then you got Cam Ward at second, Sanders at third, which that kind of surprises me. Then you got Nussmeyer at fourth, Drew Aller or Aller. Penn State. I haven't really seen a lot of him, like a lot of his play. But those are your top five. Um, Beck's not even on there, which I don't. I've seen Beck play. He doesn't like super impress me or anything. But I mean, Milrow might be the first QB taken. And then who knows? I mean, maybe you're at 6 or 5 or 6, and Sanders falls. Maybe it goes Milrow, Ward, then Sanders. But I don't know. I see Sanders, and I'm like, man, he would be great in Callahan's offense.
Yep, absolutely agree. Yeah, so those are the main questions on the Tennessee Titans front in terms of Callahan and Levis. So now let's look forward to this week, quote unquote, look forward to, as the Tennessee Titans are facing the Cincinnati Bengals, the host of the Cincinnati Bengals this week. How do you feel about this game? Where are you at? I know at this point we don't really care. The Bengals are still playing for something. If they won out, I think they could make the playoffs. I
Yeah.
mean, I think the scenario still exists. Where are you at on Titans?
Yeah, I mean, look, I can't stand the Bengals, dude. Like I cannot stand them, and obviously it goes back to the playoff game, right? Like I was living in Florida that time. I flew to Nashville, sat in 16-degree weather. Me and James from the network sat in 16-degree weather and watched that awful performance by Rand Tannehill, and that was like, the year I really felt like this team, had a possible Super Bowl type of roster, um, and it goes back to that. And I don't think we haven't beat them since then. And also, it goes back to Eli Apple. I remember in that game, on one of those interceptions, he came down the end zone and flicked off the fans, and we happened to be right there. So I have this disdain and like this thing against the Bengals ever since then. So yeah, I mean, there's a big part of me that's like, hey, I want us to win. I want us to go out there and win. But again, I want us to keep losing. I want us to lose every game from here on out. There's no point to win. Like there really isn't. Like do what's best for your organization at this point. Like you have no chance in the playoffs. It's not like you got 6, 7 games left now. You're at this point. Like, yeah, okay, go play competitively, whatever. But let's lose by 3 every game. Like I'm just but as the you're the question was like, what do you think like about this game? But I think, the Bengals are going to win this game. I think their offense is just too much for the Titans. I think they are a better team. I think they've just landed into some situations. I don't know, man. They just had a bad year. Their defense is awful though. Their defense is absolutely putrid, but our offense isn't great. So, I could see us playing well and like keeping it close, but I just think they're going to be too much for the Titans or offense. And I think they're going to pull this game out, by like a touchdown or something.
Yeah, pretty much agree with all those sentiments. And yeah, I mean, at this point, and it'll be interesting to see, Callahan going up against Zach Taylor
Yeah.
and some of his former fellow coaches over there. So that'll be interesting to see as well. But yeah, I mean, you're right. There's really no point to winning. The only thing I will say, though, is for those of you that, yeah, and look, I'll still say that, yeah, look, I would prefer that Will Levis be a franchise quarterback or not. So this is a game in which he's facing a bad defense
Hmm.
where okay, we this could be a game where we really would like to see something because I mean he hasn't had a 3+ touchdown game since his debut. I would
Right.
like to see a 3 touchdown game. I would like to see a 300-yard game. I don't think he had 300. I think he had 297 a couple weeks ago, but I don't think he cracked 300.
Yeah.
So this is the type of game you'd like to see that. Now, unfortunately, we traded away, some of the firepower that we need for this sort of game in Hopkins and whatnot, but at least we got some competition for that.
Right.
But I would be though concerned then if Levis doesn't play well. I mean, this is a game where he needs to play well. I mean, I think he needs to play well every game. I don't know if he can have a couple more bad games,
Right.
but I really want to see him at the very least come out at home, be able to put up some points, and hit Calvin really. I still have, by the way, two prop bets that I'm praying somehow hit. I need Will Levis to get over 18 and a half passing touchdowns. Right now he has 12. And I need Calvin really. I thought this was going to be so easy, over 4.5, and right now he has 3.
So how
So
many you need
I'm still
from?
looking up for those. So I need two more receiving touchdowns from Ridley, and I need
Okay.
7 more from Willis in 4 games, which I don't know if he can do, but really can still do 2 touchdowns.
Right. Yeah, I had a couple prop bets last week, just game prop bets, and I won them, but I didn't put much. I mean, it was like 5 bucks. It was like what I had left over from a pick'em game that I had, but yeah, no, I mean, there's no reason that they shouldn't be able to move the ball against Cincinnati. I mean, they're allowing 365 yards a game passing. Like um 27 they're giving up 27.7 points a game. Rushing, they're giving up 130 yards a game. Um and another thing too is they're worse than us in the pass rush department. 24 sacks, 30th in the league. Um so there's no reason that yeah, you're right. I mean, this could be like a game. This should be a good game for Will Levis in this passing offense. And I'd like to see Ridley take over a game again. I mean, that's only happened like what, maybe once this season where he had like just a pretty dominant type of game. And I think, I don't know, I want to say that was that like first quarter, and he might have had another 100-yard game too, like a couple weeks ago. He had like 130 yards or something. But
Yeah.
Ridley has been frustrating me a lot. Like, I mean, um, the guy is so talented. Like, he is. I mean, he could stop on a dime. Um, he can get separation, but he makes these little mistakes. Do you that last week's game? Do you blame that on Ridley, Levis, or both? Like, it was hard to tell.
I think in that case, I blame it more so on Levis, but I
Yeah.
do blame Ridley too, because really you got to know how much real estate you have to the sideline.
Mm,
All right, like you have to know that, and to me at that point, before you can go out of bounds. But I think Levis was late on the throw.
yeah.
I think he was 100% late on the throw.
Yeah. And it Ridley, it didn't even seem like he gave any effort to turn upfield. Like, it's like he
Yeah.
didn't even try. Like, he didn't even turn his body at all or anything. And I was like, that's weird. Like, even if it happened out of bounds, like oops, like he just ran straight for the sideline. But like, I mean, I've seen replays of it too, and Will Levis should have had that ball out, half a second earlier as well. And then you have the throw in the end zone where Chig is wide open. Was that Jeffrey Simmons was in on that play, right?
I believe
The
so.
one where um I think they called in Simmons. And I was thinking, like, obviously that type of play was probably 99% not designed to go to Simmons. He was in there as a decoy to get one of those tight ends open. I think it was designed to get Chig open. I don't think it was designed to get Vanette open. Um, I don't know.
Oh, and they've already came out and said that yeah, Chig was the second read on
He
that.
was.
So yeah,
And Vanette was the first read.
yeah, but Vanette was a first. But
Wow.
depending on, I think it was a linebacker. It could have been a safety, but depending on where which one he decided to cover, ideally the other one's open, and then yeah, Chig was open.
Man, like I can't comprehend that, man. Like I know it's bang bang. Like, look, I'm not like an X's and O's guy. Like, I barely played any organized football growing up. Like, it was mostly backyard football, and like I tried out a little bit in school, but I was just never like big enough. I was pretty scrawny when I was younger, and and I know it's bang bang, and it's like you got to make these decisions. You got guys that are 300 pounds that run like 4.740s coming at you, and you're just having to make these decisions. But it's like, dude, it was right there in front of you, like what, 15 feet away. And I don't, it's just stuff like that where I'm like, oh, it's so frustrating.
Yeah, and then those are the things that we hope that in time Levis can see the field more. But it's also some things that I just don't know how you miss it. I just don't get it.
Right. I don't either, man. I don't know.
All right, yeah, so we can get you out on this. So, final score prediction for Titans Bengals.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's no reason that we can't put up some points, like more than 17 points. My God, can we please score? We have to score more than 17 points in this game. I think I'm expecting us to score like at least three touchdowns and a field goal. Like, I think that is very capable of us doing. We should do that. But I think it's going to be like a 30 to 24, 34 to 24 type of game. I do. I just think the Bengals offense, Jamar Chase is an absolute monster. He's been on my fantasy team all year. Like, he is an absolute monster. I don't see us being able to stop him for the entire game. I think the Bengals are going to make some explosive plays that just kind of blow the game open at some point where we're kind of coming from behind, and we're just not designed for that at the moment. I just feel like it's going to be that type of game. I'll give a final. I'll say 30 to 24 the Bengals.
Okay, and I agree. Unfortunately, I do think like three touchdowns is like our cap right now. So I'll say 30 to 17.
Okay.
And then maybe there's a
The
chance we get that
dreaded
last touchdown
17.
in. Yeah. No, exactly. But yeah, Titans Rossi, let the people know where to find you.
Yeah, of course, man. It's the Titan Upload Network on YouTube. You can find me on X at Titans Rossi. Follow me on there, and yeah, man, we're kind of we me and MJ been talking. It's gonna be fun. We're gonna try and do this a little more regularly. We'll kind of rotate channels here and there, so be tuned. Stay tuned for that. But yeah, follow our network too. Follow MJ's network. We've been around for a while doing this thing. We love it, and tighten up, everybody. MJ, I appreciate you too, man.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And by the way, to everyone, both of those links will be in the description below. All right. Yeah. So anyway, that's been it for Sports Fan Entertainment. I swear I will not fall asleep. I will be here to recap Titans Bengals this Sunday. Until next time, this has been MJ of Sports Fan Entertainment, and I'm out. See you all later.
Good show, man.